Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. My name is Jim. I'm joined by Jake and Josh. And Josh, I have a question. How did all your tests go that you were getting ready for over the weekend?
About 7 math assignments. I'm in business calc, so about 7 assignments there on top of a quiz, on top of an exam, on top of a microeconomics essay. So, I squeezed in as much football as I could on Saturday, but college stuck one up the you-know-what this week.
How about you, Jake? How you doing?
Man, I am fueled by Dayquil and what's left of my pre-workout, and I am ready to talk ball. Let's do this. Let's talk some linebackers and running backs.
Fantastic. We got 7 players coming at you, and our first player that we're going to cover, well, we're going to go with Teddye Buchanan because that was the first player on the slide that came up. He was supposed to be number 2, but we will go with him as number 1. So what can we tell our audience about Mr. Teddye Buchanan?
I can go ahead and kick this off. I love old Ted, and my comp for him coming out is I see him as Jake Paul fighting off the geriatrics at the old folks home. Beating by that, he'll beat you up on the outside. This guy, he's got oily hips, and you don't hear that a lot in regards to linebackers. You talk safeties, you talk corners, you're talking coverage with those. Teddye Buchanan, very great in that regard. Obviously started his career at UC Davis, just transferred over to be a Cal Bear with his brother, Toby. This is a guy that's kind of come onto the scene here recently, and this is a guy that needs to be at the Senior Bowl. That's what it was made for. Get him at the Senior Bowl. Get him at the Hula Bowl. This guy's got 8 interceptions in his career thus far, and he's got 6 sacks and 21 pressures this season. That tells you the type of quality he's bringing on the football field. He probably a little bit undersized for my liking, struggles to get off blocks at times, so probably won't ever be a prototypical 3-down backer at the next level, but this guy could be a savant in the pass or in coverage for a linebacker. Put him in the dime backer role and let him sail, and he will be a steal for somebody's team.
How about you, Jake or Josh? Excuse me.
Hit it on the head. Teddie was one of the better watches out of this linebacker class. I got him at 6'1", 5/10", 235 pounds. And I really don't think there's a real weakness in his game when you're talking about deficiencies. One thing that I really liked about him is he plays with his hair on fire, and he is a quick and decisive mental processor. He will attack downhill really quickly for a linebacker. He takes good pursuit angles, especially going after running backs in the backfield, either gap or zone schemes. And I like his ability to work off schedule and get to the quarterback. He knows that exact trigger when to get out of his assignment and make a play downhill on the quarterback rolling outside of the pocket. And his coverage skills were really impressive transferring from UC Davis all the way to California. If you watch the Miami tape against Cam Ward in the first half, he was able to sit and pass off players in his zone coverage, get Cam Ward off of his read, and made him play almost off of his reads for the entire first half, had to improvise a lot. And that was due a lot to Teddye Buchanan's instincts in zone coverage. He also has the ball production, like Jake mentioned. I like his ability to be able to travel with tight ends down the seam. He has the play speed to function down the field with those linebackers. And like Jake said, his hip fluidity is really impressive for a guy at that strength, at that size. I think he's a fundamental tackler as well. Like you said, this guy needs to be at the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl. He would have been there either way if he stayed at UC Davis, but him transferring to California has answered a lot of questions about Teddye Buchanan playing against lower level competition. I would like to see him play better against outside zone run coverages, being able to diagnose and get downhill quickly like he does on those gap scheme runs. But this is a really high floor player that's going to bring great rotational value and bring great value on passing downs as a linebacker, as well as carve up a really core role on special teams because he plays with his hair on fire, literally. I have around the 4th round grade on him, and I have him in the same tier as a Smell Munden / a Jay Higgins like we previously talked about. I'm really high on Teddye Buchanan.
So,
Cool.
Josh, where do you kind of see him getting drafted this upcoming year? What round do you see him landed in?
I see him landing somewhere early on day 3, 4th or 5th round. I think teams are going to go back to his UC Davis tape and see the upside, and then translate it to his California tape and see how fundamentally sound he's been on both rundowns and passing downs this year. I think this is one of the linebackers. While he might not be the tallest linebacker in the world, his film is going to out-trump some guys that have the height, weight, length, projectability that needs more development. And I think he brings a really sound floor to a team right away who could plug and play, especially on passing down. So I don't see him falling below the 4th round to me.
Nope, that's why I have him supplanted right there in the 4th round as well. And you talked about his hair on fire. If we're talking 4th round grade, he's got 1st round grade hair right now. We're talking a hair and shoulders to the max.
Troy Polamalu, yeah. Okay, so let's go to Stutsman next.
So I'll kick it off with Stutsman. For a linebacker class that doesn't have a lot of guys that fill out the height, weight, and length profile, Stutsman is one of those guys that brings NFL size to the linebacker position. I really like how fundamental of a tackler he is in the open space and working downhill on gap runs. I think his run support and tackling are one of his biggest strengths that he brings to the table. He plays with good tenacity. I like his mental processing, especially on passing downs. While he might not be the most refined coverage linebacker, I like his instincts and I like his discipline. I think he plays with surprising speed for a guy that big and that strength. I was really surprised to see him travel well with good lateral movement ability. Not a guy that's going to be an elite sideline to sideline range guy, but he doesn't lack in the speed department and it doesn't hinder his game at all. I don't think this is a guy that's going to necessarily bring the boom all the time, but I think he takes really good pursuit angles and he's a fundamentally sound tackler. Good athletic ability with solid versatility that can play all 3 linebacker positions. But this is one of the few guys I have projected to play the middle linebacker role, the Mike linebacker role, and could really plug and play as an early down run defender often and early in his career while refining his techniques and man coverage, lining up against tight ends, learning how to stay in phase when they get in and out of their breaks. I think that's the one thing that Stutsman can improve on getting into the next level, but I think he brings a really great floor as a run defender and a tackler, as well as just a leader. Oklahoma has had a subpar year to their standards, and it has not been because of Danny Stutsman. The team revolves around him. He is a vocal leader, and he shows it on and off the field. So I think this is a guy that we're talking about round 2 to round 3 to a linebacker needy team that can plug and play day 1.
I agree with everything that you said, and I would turn my hat around because it has a big OU on it because I am an Oklahoma fan. I usually don't like covering OU players just because my bias will show, but you can go back and look at all my draft boards for the last 4 years. I hated Tyler Guyton last season. I had Walter Rouse over him actually. But then you can go back to guys like Creed Humphrey and CD Lamb, guys that I was high on that I absolutely love. Danny Stutsman is a fucking wild man. He gives no two shits about anything. This is just an all ball player. Best notable quotables in the draft. Obviously, everybody knows Oklahoma only fears God. Texas fears Oklahoma. And my personal favorite is he's like communion. He's the cracker with the juice. Best quote in the entire draft. But like you said, prototypical size and length, pause. But 4th and 1, ball game is on the line. This is the man you call. His ability to get skinny and to knife through blockers and to get into the backfield is second to none. My comp for him is Jack Campbell that just recently came out a couple years ago. I absolutely love Danny Stutsman. I think he can definitely improve in the passing game. Zone coverage is where he thrives. He's got those long limbs to get into passing lanes. This isn't a guy that you want to line up in man coverage on a regular basis just because he has decent athleticism, but like you said, sideline to sideline, it's not what he's going to do best. He's best between the tackles, and he is a leader of men. He's also injured this season. So a lot of people have knocked him thus far and dropped him down. We were talking about him and Harold Perkins as ILB 1 and 2 going into the season, and now I see him PFF mock draft simulators got him going to like the 5th round. It's absolutely crazy. The dude has struggled with injuries his entire career, though, so that is a slight red flag for me. I don't think the neck injury is a huge, big deal. I think that's going to heal up nicely. And like you said, OU has been subpar this season. And in regards to the defense has been great under Brent Venables. This offense has struggled, though. Offensive line, 5 new starters. We're missing 5 starting offensive wide receivers all season thus far, just now getting Deion Burks back. And, yeah, Nick Anderson hasn't played a snap thus far. I think he played 2 snaps and went back out. So, yeah, so this is a subpar year for Oklahoma, but Danny Stutsman is going to be a steal in the draft, especially if he's going where people are talking about where he's going to go. I have him in the 2nd round, early 2nd round at that, and I think he's going to be playing for a very long time in the NFL.
Yeah, so Stutsman was on our board last year, and he chose to go back to school. We had a 1st round grade on him if he had came out last year. So, like you said, like you could either discount him because of the injuries, or you could say availability is your best ability. That's the linebacker I want. So if he's able to play through injuries and still play at a high level.
He played through an ankle injury all last season, played with a neck injury. I think it started spurring up about week 3, if I remember correctly, and that's when he added in the neck roll, which A+ aesthetic for a linebacker, but that's due to the injury. He's also the youngest linebacker we're going to be talking about today, still 21, and I think he'll just be turning 22 right at the start of the draft. So still got potential to grow.
Okay. Next up, Carson Bruner. Josh, you want to take this one away?
So Carson Bruner has had an amazing year for Washington, really taking over as the leader of that defense. I have him at 6'1", 5/10", 225 pounds. So a little bit undersized in the height category. And I do think he can add functional play strength to the next level. That will probably be my biggest knock on him, his ability to stack and shed blockers in the 2nd level. It's due to that adequate play strength. And I do think he has room to add more at the next level. But one thing I love about Carson Bruner is his mental processing, his run support, and his zone coverage feel and instincts. I think he had a 2 interception game the other game. I think it was against USC, if I believe. And he's always just in the right position at the right time, especially on play action plays when he's covering a tight end or on a short yard situation where he needs to fill a gap. He never over pursues. He brings good run support to the table, and he's a sound tackler as well. Again, I do think he can add functional play strength at the next level to be more consistent as a tackler, but his coverage abilities are plus at the next level. His mental processing is plus at the next level. His pursuit is good for his size and strength. And I do think this guy will carve out a special teams role early on in his career. He's already shined as a kickoff coverage guy at Washington. And I think this is a guy you can put in on dime defenses and be an effective pass defending linebacker. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I like the floor that he brings as a pass defender. I do think he will add play strength to improve his tackling at the next level, but he brings good mental processing in the run support game. Right now, I have around the 5th round grade on him. Same kind of grade I had on Jaheim Powell that we covered earlier. Kind of opposite linebackers. One has the height, weight, length. The other one is more undersized, but brings the nuance to the game, unlike Jaheim Powell. So what did you have on Carson, Jake?
I agree with the 5th round grade. I have him slightly shorter at 6'1", and his dad did play in the NFL for 14 years. I think that is worth mentioning. His dad, Mark, played tight end for Houston and I believe Carolina, if I remember correctly. I might be mistaken the Carolina, but some of the best eyes in the draft at the linebacker position that I watched, absolutely loved it. I think this kid was 2 to 3 inches taller and had 15 more pounds of muscle. We're talking maybe day 1 pick, just because when you look at that height and those eyes, you go, okay, this kid's been in the film room. he knows what it takes to translate that to the field. So he's in there, he's dialing those back, and I think there's no way that he's not successful at the next level. He might not be a 3-down backer. He might not play a significant amount of snaps. This guy's going to stick to a 53-man roster for a very long time, though. I think the Cat's going to be one of the biggest defensive steals in the draft, potentially. I really like Carson Bruner's tape.
Cool. So, and we've mentioned it on the podcast before, but if there's any new listeners, like every year, there's about 25 running backs and 25 linebackers drafted fundamentally. So an NFL roster is 53 players, and you want cost-controlled rookies, and a great position for that is linebackers that can play special teams. So if you can draft a rookie linebacker and have him play special teams his rookie year, and then see what happens. Does he play his way into a starting spot? That's a great way for a team to draft in rounds 5 through 7, right? There's going to be a lot of linebackers we cover in this podcast, and people will say, well, why do you mix linebackers in with running backs? It's because generally both of them are going to get drafted. So we're about to flip to our running back section. I think we got one more linebacker to cover before we flip to running backs, but linebackers get drafted, and even a 5th round grade on a linebacker is somebody that's going to make a 53-man roster. So great job on Bruner, guys. Okay, last linebacker, Barrett Carter. So
Barrett, I'll start this one off. Barrett Carter is a very interesting linebacker, 6'1". I actually have him at 5'11", so I have him significantly shorter. But this dude is hyper athletic. Dude is a Roomba with a V8 motor with a flamethrower on top is what I wrote down. It has no idea where it's going, but it's going fast, and it's wreaking havoc when it gets there, and it's bouncing around. Dude wins with speed against blockers, still needs to refine that technique, how to get off blocks. And a lot of that comes down to the size, just because he doesn't have the length there. So I don't think that's ever going to be his game. And I think that shows up in his tackling as well. He hits really hard, doesn't always wrap up, and that might just come down to arm length. But great in coverage, just like all of the linebackers really talk to, other than maybe Stutsman. I think he's the one that could grow there. But he's also a very good blitzer. So there's a lot to like about Barrett Carter, and that's why he has been soaring up draft boards. I currently have a 3rd round grade on him. I think that what's really holding him back is all of the things that borderline elite in some linebackers, he does really great. It's those certain basics that get those players to a good standpoint that he still needs to refine. So if he can get those down, sky is the limit. But it's really just going back to the basics. And potentially that comes with time at the next level. But there is going to be a NFL defensive-minded coach out there that's going to be pounding the table for Barrett Carter on day 2 or day 3.
So I'll jump on Carter. 6 foot. I have him at 6 foot and 5/10", 230. So you have him 5'11". He's undersized as it is. If you look at his 2023 tape compared to his 2024 tape, it is night and day, and that is why evaluating linebackers and prospects in general are just extremely hard, especially if they've had a better junior year than they've had a senior year. Let's just go over what Carter brings well to the table. His athletic ability is top tier in this draft class, even being undersized. He brings very good play speed to the table. He uses that on his pass rush and his alignment versatility. You'll see him as an edge rusher sometimes on passing downs, and he'll be able to win with speed and bend off the edge. You also see his pursuit and hit power. When he takes good pursuit lanes with that speed, he's able to get downhill quickly or move sideline to sideline. He does have the sideline to sideline range. And I really like the versatility that he brings. Even him being undersized, there are some defensive coordinators that will say, hey, let's try him out as a nickel blitzer every once in a while. And he'll be able to thrive in that role just because of that speed and athletic ability. I really liked his man coverage in 2023. I think his ability to handle running backs out of the backfield on option routes, on wheel routes, his athletic ability allows him to stay in phase. But that's also taken a step down this year. And I don't know if I can contribute that to coaching, whether Jeremiah Trotter is gone and he's taken all of the burden. But he has taken a slight dip in his man and zone coverage abilities. But the athletic ability is there, and it could definitely be coached back to him in the next level. And I really liked his stack and shed ability in 2023 as well as his downhill tackling. But this year in the open field, especially if quarterbacks are on a scramble or running backs get to him at the second level, he's missing way too many tackles for a guy that gifted right now. And it's something you write in the back of your note sheet like, is there something we can coach out of him, or is this something we need to do more work on? Because Barrett Carter has all the athletic ability traits to translate to the next level, even being undersized at that height. But the decline in 2024 from 2023 is a little concerning for me. So I'll have a guy like Harold Perkins slightly above him. I'll have a guy like Danny Stutsman above him, but I don't see this guy falling out of day two with those athletic abilities. And if we're talking about his 2023 tape, he's probably a top 2 to 3 linebacker in this draft class, but something to keep an eye on. Let's see how his combine numbers are. I think that will skyrocket his draft stock, but definitely an interesting prospect, to say the least.
I think Bill Sparks put it well in the comments. He kind of comped him to Roquan Smith, and I like that. The name I wrote down was Devin Bush. And similar size, super freak athletic, win the first round. We're talking about a very similar player at the end of day 2, early day 3. So that tells you the upside you might be getting, that extra value, that extra cherry on top, if you will. I think Barrett Carter would fit really well with what Carolina does right now. And as they rebuild that franchise, that's a good fit that I would love to see Barrett Carter in. And I'm super excited to see where he lands and see how he thrives at the next level.
So, Jake, out of the 4 linebackers we covered today, number them 1 through 4 on your board.
That's pretty easy for me. I have Stutsman, Carter, then Buchanan, Bruner.
Josh, how about you?
That exact order.
Okay. So a couple of other things to think about with linebackers, and you'll probably hear this a lot during the draft cycle. So we always talk about like linebackers. I think you heard it on nearly every linebacker we covered today except Stutsman, is that they're undersized. So undersized relative to historical standards. So if you're big on like a RAS score, the likelihood that you're going to see a linebacker spike a RAS score is going to be low because we're comparing that to historical averages, and it appears as though the size of linebackers is going.
They're getting smaller. They're getting smaller, getting faster to play with these wide receivers, this offensive scheme. So that's what we're going to get used to as we proceed forward. Doesn't mean that you can't have this ground and pounder in the middle, but he's probably only going to be out there a couple downs out of the drive. So there's places for him still, but we're moving away from it, just like running backs that we're about to talk to. They're getting smaller, they're getting faster, and they have to have the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. So we'll hop into that next.
Yep. And then the other point I was going to make on linebackers is like Ray Lewis tended to play at about 260 pounds, just to give everybody kind of an idea. But I don't know that too many other linebackers when Ray Lewis played were 260. Like, I don't think Chris Spielman was 260. Right. So, and instincts matter. So you can probably see I'm a Bills fan, but like I would rather have an instinctual player like Terrell Bernard than the player that checks all the boxes, and his predecessor was Tremaine Edmonds, right? Edmonds 6'5", had the length, had the speed to go sideline to sideline, but Edmonds never made that interception when he was guarding Travis Kelce. I'm just saying.
Knew you were going to say that.
So I did actually put some fits in for all of these players. I did have Danny Stutsman fitted to Buffalo. What do you think about that, Jim?
I think he's too big.
Too big.
I think he's too big. Like comparing him to Bernard and I'm already forgetting. Oh, Milano. It's because he's been hurt all year, right? So I would say no for Buffalo for 2 reasons. I don't see Buffalo spending a day 2 pick on a linebacker because we already have 2 third-round linebackers on the roster, and we've drafted a linebacker every year for the last 4 years. So we're just going to keep stockpiling the 5th-round linebackers to fill out special teams roles. So I think either of Buchanan or Bruner.
You can't have Buchanan. I fitted him to Tennessee, actually. So
you know what would be a great fit for Stutsman? Him and Dallas turning into the new Leighton Vander Esch. That would be awesome.
Similar look of players as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind that. I had Barrett Carter going to Carolina, like I talked about. I guess we can talk about Carson Bruner. I had him going to Philly. So,
okay. So I know, like, we're starting to get a few more viewers. I know that you're all coming here for the running backs. So, Trevor Etienne, what can you tell us about him, Josh?
So, Trevor Etienne, I got him at 5'9", dead even, 205 pounds. So well built for a really small running back. I think he brings solid athletic ability to the table. I think he does have the little wiggle room in between the tackles that you would see in an undersized linebacker, but he also has the strength as well to break a tackle if need be. His name, he brings good burst, good play speed to the table. I like his vision behind the line of scrimmage. I like his ability to hit the hole quickly, especially in short yard scenarios. Georgia has been using him a lot in red zone, and he's been more than an effective running back in that role. I like his receiving back upside. He has shown the ability to run good option routes and wheel routes out of the backfield, and with that low center of gravity, he'll be more than a viable option as a screen running back. I like his mental processing. Like I stated earlier, this is a guy that's not going to fumble a lot. He brings good toughness to the table, but this is a guy that's more likely than not going to fill a three down back role at the next level just because of that size. And he's not the most elite athlete in the world, but there is obviously a role for Trevor Etienne at the next level. Right now, I have around the fourth to fifth round grade on Trevor Etienne, and if he was more like 5'11", 205 pounds, this is a running back that would not get out of day two.
No, I really like Trevor. Obviously, everybody's coming out. They're going to talk about his brother Travis playing at the Jacksonville, and that's going to be a lot of people's comps, and they couldn't be much more different, in my opinion. Yeah. Travis is very fast, and Trevor has very good contact balance, especially for his size. Only going to be 20 years old at the time of the draft, so he's going to be a younger back at this point in time. I wrote down super cuts as a comp for him just because he's super consistent in everything he does. He might never be that $50 haircut from your local barber, but he gets the job done. He does everything efficiently. So I think it is semi-concerning. He's gone from 6.1 yards per carry to 5.8 yards per carry at Florida to 5.0 this year with Georgia. So I think he has improved since that time. And I think with the new scheme, it's slightly different. But I think this guy, I have a 5th round grade on as well. I think he can come in and be that spell back for you. I think the receiving game, he can improve upon. His route running ability works on Saturdays. I wrote down Chick-fil-A. He ain't open on Sundays at this point in time. So I think when it comes down to it, it really measures where do you see on your draft board from a floor to a ceiling perspective. I think the ceiling might only be waist high, but that floor is knee high. It's very close. So you know what you're getting out of the prospect. My actual draft comp for him, as I wrote down Kenneth Gainwell for Philadelphia. I see similar prospects in that right. I really liked Gainwell coming out of Memphis. I think Gainwell was a slightly better prospect, but I see them in that same mold at least.
So where did you guys have as far as the injuries? Because he's missed a few games. Is that how big of a concern are we with injuries?
I think
with that,
you got it.
I would say with that size, I think injuries are going to occur. And I would love to see the numbers from the NFL for running backs, because if you look at them, nobody stays healthy for 17 games at this point in time. And he hasn't missed a long period of time. There haven't been huge injuries, if I recall correctly. So it's not overly concerning. I mean, it's of note, and it's going to get him knocked a few points. But at the end of the day, it's not going to make or break it for him.
I think in a weird way, it almost like credits Etienne a little bit more, because if you see Georgia's rushing attack without Etienne, on the field, they are like scrapping. Like they got good freshmen, and they're putting Cash Jones back there, and they're putting even Dylan Bell back there as a as a wide receiver converted to running back at times. But Etienne really does bring good stability to the table when he's in that running back role on the field, and he almost like he takes the pressure off for Carson Beck a lot, and that was what he was brought in to do at Georgia. So at that size, one, I'm not concerned because he's a low center of gravity back with good play strength. And you see how Georgia's rushing attack is without him on the field. So almost in a weird way, it almost credits Etienne a little bit.
Okay. Next running back, Phil Mafah.
I'll take this one. Phil Mafah, I got it 6 foot 5/10", 230-pound back. This is a well-built running back that brings surprising burst and speed in the second level. When you turn on his tape, you're expecting a bruising running back that'll be able to get 4 yards every time and move the change on second, third downs, get first downs. But if he has an opening in the open field, he will run past DBs. And that is one of the biggest things that I saw on his tape when watching him this year. I think he brings solid athletic ability. I don't think this is a guy that's going to shake people in the boots, be the most agile guy on the field. But like I said, that burst and that play speed was a really big positive for me. Of course, he's going to have the play strength to go along with it. So he's going to be a reliable yard after contact back. I think he brings a solid floor as a receiving back. Again, not going to be the most dynamic route runner in the world, but you're not going to ask Phil Mafah to be the most dynamic route runner in the world. I like his ball security. I like his mental processing and patience behind the line of scrimmage. That was also a big plus for me. Phil Mafah is a guy that rose up my board significantly, and I have him comped to a guy like Gus Edwards at the next level, a guy that's going to be an early down back that brings surprising speed in the open field and is able to take those short yard runs and break away for 10, 20-yard runs pretty regularly, if you ask me. So I think this is a guy that you know what you're getting out of him. And he's going to bring a great role to a guy like a Jim Harbaugh offense, almost replacing Gus Edwards if they want to. But that's the type of running back you're getting out of Phil Mafah, and he will definitely carve out a role for himself in the NFL.
In what round grade?
I got a 5th round grade on him.
Okay. Jake,
I also have a 5th round grade on him, but I feel like I wanted to love Phil Mafah. These are the type of backs that I absolutely love when I just look at his size and speed, but I was not wowed. He finally is the lead back over there in Clemson with Will Shipley, heading out to Philadelphia in the 4th round last year. Big and explosive. Love that. But he looks like, to me, a athlete playing running back and not a running back that is an athlete. He overthinks everything that I see. He's second guessing from pass pro to rushing lanes. He's still trying to figure out that. It's like when I'm playing Madden and somebody gets through the line and I'm trying to throw it to somebody, I hit X square and R1 at the same time and I throw it into the stands or throw a pick. That's what I quarter to. He just, if he could just make a decisive decision, I think he could be very good. And I think the perfect fit for him would to go to a team that already has an established RB1 there so he can learn. I think sitting behind Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins over at LA would be great. I think sitting behind Derrick Henry would be awesome. What I actually wrote down was, what if Derrick Henry was 30 pounds less? Because you see it on Phil's tape that he has this ability he looks like a big back that can just break away. But when you need that short yardage stuff, it just doesn't always materialize. So looks like Tarzan, runs like Jane currently. But I think if you get this guy in the 5th or 6th round, I think he can grow into a low end RB1 for you. We'll say if it's fantasy, a low end RB2 for you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Phil has a lot of stuff that he can work on. But I think they are all things that he can do, that he can work on and improve upon.
Cool. So first of all, Jake, I want to give you props. We've had a $50 haircut. We've had looks like Tarzan, runs like Jane. Like, you bring it every week. I absolutely love it. So before we go to
I hate boring comps. I got to say that. You see it with everybody in the draft community that, oh, player X looks like future Hall of Famer out there. And it's like, that's not what you're getting. Let's get some movie references in there. Let's talk about fried chicken from gas stations, because that's what the people pay for. That's what they want to see in the draft community.
Gas stations where you live have fried chicken. I need to move.
Oh yeah. TreVonte Sweat's comp last year was gas station chicken, just because it can be the best thing in the world, or it can be absolutely garbage and give you diarrhea. And that's what TreVonte Sweat for us. I think us in Tennessee, we've gotten the best of the best in that, I believe, as of thus far. But in the draft process last season, he had the DUI, DWI late in the process. So there was lots of red flags there, but the tape definitely showed what he could be. So, yeah, give the people what they want. Good draft comps.
Absolutely. So before we hit our last running back, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the like button on YouTube. Follow Jake at Glory Day Sports. Follow Jake for draft coverage, Titans coverage. Josh Townsend at Juice_T23. Follow him on X. I'm at NFL Draft Fanatic. There is no I in Fanatic. So find us. We have draft content every day. So we're bringing you running backs, linebackers now. Tomorrow, you'll see some tight ends and safeties. You'll see some interior offensive line. Wednesday, we got some edge offensive tackle. I believe there's 2 edge episodes coming at you Wednesday. Thursday, we got interior offensive line and defensive tackles. And then Friday, we finish out with wide receivers and corners. So we have draft content on this channel every day. You want to catch some of the past running backs and linebackers that Jake and Josh have evaluated. Check out the YouTube. All the podcasts are there. We're covering them about 4 at a time. So the last running back of the day, Mr. Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon. I think this is back to me, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But amazing 2023 season, had 2,000 plus total yards over there at Oklahoma State, averaging 6.1 a pop. I mean, this is a guy that was talked about as potentially in that same draft comps of Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton and these upper echelon players. And this year really just hasn't materialized for him just this far. It hasn't been talked about, but I think he might be dealing with something behind the scenes, potentially injury. Obviously didn't have the best offseason, we just talked about it with Sweat, but he had a DUI, DWI, and then his head coach comes out and probably has the worst quotes of all time, saying, "Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I drink and drive all the time," kind of thing. So that's Coach Gundy for you, and not sure how long he'll be there at Oklahoma State, but he's been there for a very long time at this point in time. But this is a guy that's built in this old school type of role. The more you feed the beast, more you'll get out of him. And this is a guy that potentially when we revisit the draft here in 5 years, we're going, how did Ollie Gordon slip to the 3rd round? I have a 2nd round grade on him currently. I think he could outshine just about anybody and everybody in this draft class for the running back position. He could get better in pass pro, but I think he has the ability there to and the capability to perform that level. I think by his rookie season, I don't think you're going to worry about keeping him out there on 3rd down. My draft comp for him currently is Melvin Gordon. So I think Gordon just goes well, and it just comes easy. I think he is a better receiver than what he's really credited to. I've seen him comp to like Adrian Peterson, and that really just doesn't make sense for me. Adrian Peterson has hands of stone. Gordon has a pretty soft touch, and you can throw a screen to him, you can throw him into the flat, and he's perfectly fine and capable there. So I think Gordon is a very intriguing prospect, and this is a guy that I think will perform better at the combine than a lot of people are anticipating.
So, Gordon was my first evaluation this summer. And when I tell you that this season has made me rethink everything that I do, it has. I love Ollie Gordon to death. but we have to talk about this season. So let's talk about his height, weight. I have him at 6'1", 6'2", give or take. He's a taller, higher center of gravity running back at 225 pounds. He has really good athletic ability for a guy his size. His speed, his burst, his play strength is all there, and he excels yards after contact. Last year on his tape, he would break 2 to 3 tackles at a time and still maintain that same speed and break away in the open field for multiple 200-plus rushing yard games. This is what the top running back of the college football league last year who won the award. And this year,
he won it.
Yeah. And this year, it's been a combination of teams are stacking the box against him, and his patience has declined a little bit. His patience in 2023 was outstanding, but sometimes this year when you watch him, he's kind of like a Chuba Hubbard when he was at Oklahoma State. One gear, hit the gap, go, instead of sifting through his blockers, waiting for the hole to develop. But it's weird because you saw in 2023, he has that patience to do that when needed. You can attest that to team stacking the box. There might be an unknown injury that we're not hearing about, but he brings a good floor as a receiving back. Like you said, that was the one knock I had on him coming out of this summer. I think he could refine his pass blocking technique, his ability to use his anchor, get hands on blitzing linebackers. But again, if you're drafting Ollie Gordon, especially in year 1 and year 2, you're not asking him to be that pass blocking down. You're developing him into being that pass blocking running back. But I'm really concerned with his patience from 2023 to 2024. But it's like the Barrett Carter of running backs. You saw it in 2023. You got to evaluate 2024 the same. I don't think Ollie Gordon's falling out of day 2, no matter what. I was really high on him in the summer. I had him on a end of round 1, round 2 grade. Now I have a second to third round grade on him. But I hope Ollie Gordon makes it. I hope he really does succeed at the next level, because I think it's been a combination of coaching and defensive just telling Alan Bowman, here, you got to beat me with your arm. So it's going to be.
They have one of the worst quarterback situations in college football right now. And the man's like 35 years old. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. I wrote down vision in 2023. I have down as 2020. And then 2024, I just put LASIK. So I think that tells you what I saw on tape. So he definitely has the intangibles and the athletic ability to thrive. It's just, we got to see him turn it back on. Maybe he does that to end this season. But I think this is a guy that could show out at a bowl. And like Bill said, he could potentially return or potentially transfer out. And that might be what's best for him at this point in time. Maybe he can get back to that first round talent. But like you said, and I agree that this is a day 2 pick currently. So you just have to weigh that.
So we've evaluated Omarion Hampton. I think he was in our first episode. Who's higher, Gordon or Hampton?
Hampton.
Yeah, I agree. It's Hampton right now. It's close-ish, and I would have went Gordon to start the season.
Agreed.
But at this point in time, Hampton isn't playing too well. And we're talking athletically. I think Hampton is a different beast at this point in time.
Okay, so is Gordon your RB3 at this point?
I want to say he's my RB4 currently.
Okay, and who else is between Hampton and Gordon on your board, Jake?
I actually don't have my board pulled up, but I can tell you in just 1 second.
Okay. Josh, how about you? We'll filibuster for Jake.
I got Hampton obviously above him. I got Caleb Johnson above him, Travion Henderson. And on this year's production, I have DJ Giddens above Ollie Gordon right now. But DJ Giddens and Ollie Gordon are identically graded for me. And again, if we were talking about this summer, Gordon's up there with Hampton.
Okay. And you had Giddens and Neal pretty close, right, Josh?
Yep.
Devin Neal.
Yep.
Got it.
Giddens slightly above Devin Neal, but I really like both of those prospects a lot.
Yeah, so I actually have Genty, Hampton, Judkins, and then Gordon, with Travion slightly behind. I haven't watched a lot of Caleb Johnson tape. I know that is the belle of the ball right now in the draft community, so we're going to dive more into his tape here soon. But yeah, as of right now, Gordon's number 4.
Okay. Cool. So we have finished all of our players for this episode. So I want to thank everybody that's watching. We're just shy of 100 right now. So thank you everybody for watching, listening. Again, please like the podcast on YouTube. please subscribe to the YouTube channel for daily draft content. For Jake at Glory Day Sports, for Josh at Juice_T23, and me, NFL Draft Fanatic. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Peace.